everyone, it's the Mike Rogers Show here with you. Mike Rogers here with you. And today I got a very special guest, Mr. Jason Brown. But before we get to Jason, don't forget to click subscribe and like if you like this videos, and let's just spread this video out to the world. So Mr. Jason Brown, welcome.
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
I'm
Glad
fine.
to be here.
Well, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Trying to work out some, make an interesting interview here if I can do it, but feeling pretty good.
Tell us about your background and everything and what you do.
Well, my life is pretty much all about the bass. I started out playing electric bass. I wanted to play music pretty much my whole life. My best friend played violin when I was a little kid. So I told my mom, I said, I want to play violin. And she said, okay, you get piano lessons. And next thing I know, I had this weird piano teacher that had really bad VO, and he was teaching me piano. And it wasn't exactly the violin, but in retrospect, I understand the wisdom of that now. Mm-hmm. Eventually, I found the double bass, which are what you see behind me and all over the place in my shop here. And that's just a big violin. So it made perfect sense to me that that's what I should play, because I found that I liked bass, and bass kind of came into my life without me really even realizing that that was something I should probably do.
Oh, so you play bass, and have you played in any bands or anything like that? Can you tell us about that?
Well, it's funny how it all started. It's like I found myself playing air bass, like air guitar. Mm-hmm. And it occurred to me that at the air store, you can afford everything. It's all the same price. So it must truly be what your heart wants, And I couldn't stop. I was always playing along with my favorite bands on the radio. And I was like, gee, I think I like the bass, Mm-hmm. And so without making a conscious effort about the playing music, I had moved away to go to college. At this point, I had gotten a bass. My dad bought me a pawn shop bass when I was a teenager, and I had a few lessons, and it kind of came easy to me, but I wasn't really thinking there was anything to it. And so I moved up to Humboldt County in Northern California, which is a big, known for its kind of counterculture environment.
Yeah, I can say one thing about Humboldt. Kush.
It's what?
One thing I can say about Humboldt. Kush.
Yeah. Humboldt is a party town, to say the least. And I found that out. But at the time when I went there, which was in the 80s, it was also a music town, like fantastic amount of bands. And no sooner did I move there, and I had my trusty electric pawn shop bass, that about 2 days after I was there, a car pulled in our driveway, and these bunch of kids got out and came in my house, and they go, hey, we hear you play bass. And I go, well, I don't really play, but I have a bass. And they go, that's great. We're starting a band, and we want you to play bass. And I was like, really? Are you crazy? And they're like, no, we're all new at it. It'll be fine. And so I said, sure, because saying yes to stuff is one of my philosophies, that, you got to say yes.
Yeah.
To a lot of things, to have things happen. And next thing I know, we were rehearsing, and I was in a band, and that was all completely brand new to me. I'd never been in a band, even though I loved music. And, back in the 80s, I was into the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I lived right near Hollywood, which was great because I could go and see like great bands all the time. And I learned how to sneak into clubs and catch some acts. So next thing I know, I'm in a band, and that really was a change of perspective. It's like I didn't realize how much it would make me look at music differently, understanding how it was made, like, oh, I get it now. There's pieces to this music. There's a drummer, and there's a guitar player, and there's all this, the next time I put on the radio, it was different after that one rehearsal. But it went well. And the band was like a punk rock band called the Schmidt Heads, named after Schmidt beer. which was a really cheap beer. It was like 12-pack you could buy for $3.59.
That's a good price.
Really crappy beer. It had a picture of a guy in a boat, catching fish.
Yeah.
And it was called a sport pack. And so that was the name of the band. And I'll be damned if the damn band didn't start getting popular. And we started playing like house parties up in Humboldt. Our first party was on Halloween. And it was just slamming. It was so good. And everybody loved this, much to my surprise. I was like, this can't be possible. How do they like this crap? But we were likable enough. We had 3 guys and 3 girls in the band, girl drummer. And we wrote all our own material, and it was really pretty rough. But the guitar player was really good, this guy named Billy Britton. Mm-hmm. And he was actually the linchpin that could lay it down and hold it together. And he was always the voice of, like, searing logic, like just when you'd start dreaming about something, he'd go, get it out of your head. We suck, just get back down to earth. But over a short amount of time, we got popular enough that we were playing the clubs around the area and packing them in, and the damn band, the Smithheads, got popular up there. And this was like in '86. And so it gave me a taste of, wow, this is fun, and it's fun being popular, and it's fun being in a good band. But it woke me up enough to start practicing. I thought I better take this bass stuff seriously. And so here's how I took it seriously. Someone had given me, this is Humboldt, remember, and I'm barely in my 20s. I just turned 20, I think. And at the first rehearsal, someone gave me some hits of acid, okay? And I thought, I better take this seriously. So I took my music books and my bass, and I took the acid, and I went to the beach. Mm-hmm. And I studied. I practiced, and I took the damn acid, and I was like, went into this other world where I actually got my head around the music kind of, and it made sense to me. And I go, I see what's going on here. And I had my music book out, and I was learning scales. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it was sort of like an epiphany. And, and instead of using it as a party tool, I used it as a learning tool. And it just kind of dawned on me what music was supposed to do. So I got a lot more serious about practicing and actually, put in the proper practice after that without taking acid and stuff. And it started to snowball. I found that I was really getting good at playing bass, and pretty fast, and wound up in a different band, and wound up in a blues band, wound up in a variety of bands because there was so much talent up there. Mm-hmm. And then I discovered the funny thing that happened was I got in a band where everybody was like twice my age. I'm like barely 20. They were all, the youngest other person was 40, and they were probably 50, 60, really good musicians. And it was a jump blues band, with the horn sections, written out parts, really, good stuff. And somehow I got the audition and landed that gig, and I was hanging on by the skin of my teeth, like every second. But it's like they say, fake it till you make it. I just did the best I could at every moment, and they were happy with it. And I got by with that enough so that we went to Australia on tour. And that's where I discovered the double bass. We were out with an Australian band where the guy played the upright bass. Mm-hmm. And they were so amazing. They were called the Eddies, and they were just spectacularly good. And they played these shows where the place was just packed, absolutely so packed. It was ridiculous. And we fell in love with the bass. Myself and the band leader went, wow, that upright bass is really cool. We should do that. Mm-hmm. And we just got inspired. So as soon as I got home from Australia, I found an upright bass. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I found the upright bass, I found a really good teacher. And he was a strict guy. He's no longer with us, but his name's Craig Whips. And he was a great teacher, taught me jazz and classical technique and how to do it right. And that's when everything kind of came together. I really got into that. It just clicked for me. And on top of that, Craig introduced me to who turned out to be my mentor for the upright bass Luthier that I do. And it all happened at once, because I went to his house, I played his bass, and they're very difficult to play. The action's high, and it's a gigantic instrument. And I played Craig's bass, and I went, this bass just plays itself, Craig. This is cheating. What's the deal? And he goes, well, that's your friend Jeff's dad. he does that to basses.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend Jeff Doherty, who lives up in Humboldt, his dad is Bob Doherty, who is a really legendary bass luthier, as luck would have it. And,
wait a minute. What can you explain to us? What is a luthier? What is a luthier?
I'm officially a luthier because one day, not too long ago, a lute came through my shop and I had to work on it. So the first string instrument was a lute, you know, the first guitar, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
A lute is a really funny looking instrument with a lot of strings, and the peg, the headstock goes way back and the body looks like a gourd almost.
Mm-hmm.
But that was really the first guitar. It was, you know, what led to it. So a luthier was a guy that built lutes, and it just caught on that anybody that worked on a stringed instrument was a luthier, you know, because, so it's, you know, people go, oh, a luthier. I don't know if it's a French word or not anymore, but everybody calls it a luthier. And it all came from lutes. But anyway, nowadays what a luthier is there's a lot of different ways to be that. Like the first person I really learned from was a guitar luthier, and he built acoustic guitars. And then
I see.
Bass lutherie is what I do, and that's like, you know, violin lutherie, except big.
Mm-hmm. So okay, so after all of this, and then I know you played in some really famous bands, like you played with Hank Williams III. Can you tell us about that?
That was, see, I'd like to tell you a lot more about that, but playing with them was so much fun, it kind of erased my memory. Not really, but it is, we did party maybe a little too much, but Hank 3 was really cool. I mean, he's the third generation of the famous Hank Williams family, which is Hank Sr., who I consider, and I'm not alone in this, to be one of the cornerstones of American music. You know,
Right.
Hank Sr. was just essential, and he was so important that you can hear him on the radio or on advertising pretty much almost once a day if you notice it. I mean, you'll hear songs like "You're Cheating Heart."
Yeah.
It's inescapable. You know, it's so prevalent in our culture. And then, of course, his son was Hank Jr.,
right.
Cephas. And then Hank Jr.'s son was Hank III. And some people in Nashville used to call him Tricephas. You know, mono, bow, and Tricephas, just a bad joke. Bocephus, or Hank Jr., is pretty much the king of the rednecks in the United States. He's like his period was, you know, the late 70s through the 80s, and he made really good, rebellious, rocking country music. You know, music to drink whiskey to and go get in a bar fight, and, you know, the real stuff, you know. And so Hank the Third was born when let's see, well, he was born right in the middle of that, pretty much. He was born in like 75 or 72, something like that, 72. And he's a lot more like his granddad. It's weird, you know, they say like it skips a generation, you know, and so the genetics, if you look at Hank III, he looks like Hank the First.
He does look
and
like
he's got a natural, he's just got skinny and lanky, and he's got a yodel without even trying, like his voice cracks. He showed me how to call cows once. You know, it's like you yodel for cows. You know, you go skeeve, skeeve, and the cows come in. It's really weird, but it works. I saw it.
Wow.
But anyway, so I'd gone to Branson, Missouri. Here's the weird part. I was on the road with NoFX, the punk rock band, and I was their guitar tech because they were friends of mine, and it was an offshoot of my luthier thing that El Jefe and NoFX, he goes, hey, you want to come on the road with us and be our guitar tech? And I'm like, well, what do I have to do? And he goes, well, go on world tours and like take care of the guitars and stuff. And I go, that sounds cool. Yeah, let's do it.
I know those guys from NoFX too. I met them in Japan.
Yeah, you've got to know them. They're always over there.
Yeah.
And they're a fun bunch of guys. They're really pretty down to earth.
So in your career, you played with Hank Williams Jr., Hank Williams III, Unity, and you also played with Reverend Horton Heat.
Well, I never played with Hank Jr. I just played with his son.
Hank Williams III.
And with Reverend Horton Heat, they're friends of mine, and we toured with them constantly, and I inevitably got to sit in and join the band periodically, but I wasn't actually officially in the band or anything, but we must have done 120 shows with the Reverend Horton Heat over the years.
Wow.
And they were one of our serious touring partners and an awful lot of fun, and they're still good friends of mine. In fact, I have Jimbo's bass right here behind me that I got to fix. And he's waiting for me to fix it. And it's been here a while. And then Scott Chirilla, the drummer, is a real good friend. I see him all the time. He moved to California, in fact, and great guy. See him a lot.
Wow.
But
so are those all the bands you played with?
Well, when I lived in Nashville, I was very lucky that one of the first people I met was Dave Rowe, and that was Johnny Cash's bass player at the time. And he played with Cash all the way to the end.
Wow.
And Dave is a really big influence on me. He is a great person, and he really took me under his wing when I first moved to Nashville. And he liked my playing, and he started having me sub for his gigs because he'd always have to go out on the road with Cash.
Yeah.
And so when he was out of town, he'd call me up and go, "Hey, can you cover a couple gigs in a session or something?" And so I would do these, cool recording sessions or play with these really cool artists, that with, name brand people and stuff because Dave wasn't there, and he'd sub me in. And that was a tremendously cool experience. He played with people like Ray Wiley Hubbard. I think it was through Dave that I wound up playing with most of the Mavericks, the band The Mavericks. Ended up it was like a side band, and I actually ended up just in that and doing that for a little bit. And that was fantastic. And I really enjoyed the whole experience of Nashville because it was pretty down home. Like, you'd see really famous country musicians just hanging out at the bar. They weren't all aloof and didn't have an entourage of security or any of that stuff. They were just normal people, even if they were selling millions of records. So I got to play with them. I can't even count really how many super well-known artists, that I had the honor of playing with.
Wow.
But quite a few. Nashville is a kind of a rich environment like that. And I had gotten around as a respected player, so I was doing more and more really cool stuff there.
So I think what you have done and accomplished in your life is very, I don't know how to explain. It's very, very good that you could take music. Most people think like, oh yeah, I'm going to be in a band and I'm going to be a singer, and that's it. That's all they do. But you've gone and made playing the bass, repairing the bass, subbing for these people, your life. Everything revolves around the bass, and I think that's really fantastic. For example, somebody might want to play baseball, and they'll get on a team, but they won't make it as a player. They'll have to do something else. But I always tell them, well, why can't you work in management, or why don't you get a job at some sports company or something like that? So I think it's really great. Can you promote what you're doing, your Luthier? Yes. So tell us how to contact you, and what do I need to do? I've got a bass that's broken or needs to be fixed or something. How do I get a hold of you?
Well, I'm right here in Southern California. I'm in South Orange County, actually Mission Viejo. So we're about 50 miles from Los Angeles, and a lot of my clients come from Los Angeles and a lot come up from San Diego, but I'm on Facebook. The funny thing is I don't advertise, and I don't do, everything I do is word of mouth. Like, my next client is a friend of my last client, almost always. And I really like that because I've built over the years this tremendous network of nice people. Because
so you're waiting, like in Hollywood actors, like there's like a doctor who only handles Hollywood actors, or a veterinarian that only handles Hollywood actors' dogs or cats. So that's what you are for the bass. You only handle this stuff for like famous bassists.
Yeah. It seems that way. I mean, I've been lucky like that because one of my policies is I try to really listen to people, my clients, and I discovered in my craft, there's not enough of that. There's too many people that, they don't listen to the people that are bringing them the bass, and then the person with their instrument goes away not satisfied. They don't feel like they really got it addressed. So I think it's all a result of the fact that I respect my clients. I respect them a lot, enough that I know how to make a bass really good, but I know how to make it even better if I listen to what you want and actually try to meet you somewhere with that,
Wow.
And so the result of that is that the word is spread that, hey, this is the guy to go see. He'll actually give a crap about what you're trying to tell him and do it for you. And that I think it's just that simple, and that I always do good work. And if I always stand behind my work, I say, if you have any issues or something's not right, bring it back. I'll fix it on the spot. I'll fix it one way or the other. I'm not going to charge you to fix anything that, especially if I did something that's not right for you. And that's really snowballed into a lot of confidence and loyalty. Like all my clients, many of them are so old that, they've been here the whole time I've been in California, and I still have clients from around the country that have met me before. But I think it all boils down to actually giving them respect. And as a player, I'm able to understand, I'm no different than they are. I know what it's like to work for gigs at all kinds of levels. I work lots of local bar gigs and little places, and I've worked Glastonbury and Reading and Leeds, and played on Conan O'Brien, and played on the BBC and the Grand Ole Opry. So I know what it's like on the really big stages, and I know what it's like down at your local bar, and I'm able to respond to that, and I think the results are that people notice I care, and that's been better than any advertising or having a building. I do all my work out of my shop in my garage, and I work from home. And I also work with another outstanding little company in bass called Lemur Music, which was who got me out to California in the first place. But the old owner was, she was about ready to retire, and she did, and she wasn't the most fun to work for. So I went independent, and it turned out that went great. But then recently, one of their longtime employees bought the company and moved it down to San Clemente, right on the beach. And she goes, "Do you want to be involved again?" And I said, "Sure." So I don't work for them, but I work with them, and I do lots of stuff for them. And it's really a nice, I'm related to that company again, but independent also. And it's kind of the best of both worlds.
Well, that's really cool.
You can get a hold of me through Lemur Music, or, you can go to Lemur Music if you need anything for the bass, and tell them Jason sent you. And she will always do the best price she can. Ask for Tammy. And, but it is cool, it's like what you said about the sports guys, I think my deal is I realized that you have to kind of diversify.
Right.
It's not enough to just be in music, because there'll be dry spells. And I'm lucky because Luthier just kind of came to me very easily. It's like it's something that's I was obviously born to do, I think, at this point. It's not as easy for a lot of people, but since it was, I figured that's a darn good thing to keep, on the front burner. And it's really the breadwinner for me right now, and I get to play for fun and enjoyment.
Well, also, now with the Corona thing going on, and people always need their bass repaired, and so maybe there's not so many live gigs, but you need to have something that keeps you in the music business and generating some kind of income. So doing Luthier is a really great idea.
It's good to be needed.
Yeah. So,
and even during the Corona, people had I was worried that, obviously my gigs, because prior to Corona, I had been playing a lot, like too much probably. I was playing in 7 or 8 bands at once, which is mentally exhausting because you have to keep track of so many different things.
Yeah.
And then Corona came and just wiped it out. It's like all the gigs were gone at once, and so that was a bit of a shock, and didn't know how it would pan out.
Yeah.
But throughout most of that period, people did need their basses fixed, and they thought, well, I'm not working. Now's a great time to...
That's right, because
now's a great time to go ahead and get the bass fixed.
You've got a lot of live shows and stuff, you don't have time to get your bass fixed. So this is a really good thing that you're doing. But anyways, Jason, that's all the time we have for today. I really appreciate you giving us insights into your business, and I think you're going to give ideas to a lot of people. Like, gee, I can make a living. I don't have to work at a pet shop or a print shop or deliver newspapers and then be in a band. I can find a way that I can live a music life, and I think that's really cool. So last question, Jason, what's the difference between a bass and a violin?
Well, you jumped right over the middle one, because as a bassist, the one you always get compared to is the cello.
Yeah.
So
okay.
It's like, I consider it like Goldilocks, the story in the 3 Bears. This porridge is too hot, this porridge is too cold, and this porridge is just right. Well, the cello is the just right porridge.
Yeah.
It's like, it's about the size of an acoustic guitar. It's in the human vocal range, and it's a beautiful, easy instrument to play. The violin is very tiny, and you have to hold it on your shoulder. You literally pinch it with your head against your shoulder, and you play it upside down compared to the other 2 instruments. And the bass is about 5 violins tall. You can literally put maybe 4, probably 5. So other than that, the principle behind those 3 instruments is identical. They are literally analogous to one another. The small differences are that they're tuned differently. They're tuned to strategically make the most of the size of the instrument.
Yeah.
A violin and a cello are tuned in 5ths, a bass is tuned in 4ths, and that just means that you have more reach on those smaller instruments. You have more notes under your hands. If you tune the bass in 5ths, it's too hard to get to the notes. It's just too far.
Thanks, Jason. I was just kind of kidding. I thought you were going to say it's a violin's a wimpy thing. But anyways, thanks so much for the interview. Today's guest, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jason Brown, a musician, a luthier. He's the guy that everyone goes to have their bass repaired. I'm Mike Rogers, and thank you so much, Jason. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mike. It's an honor. I follow your stuff, and it's fantastic, and I'm honored to be on your show.
Okay, so I'll talk to you again soon, okay? Because this is going to hang up in a minute. But don't forget, if you like the Mike Rogers Show, and links to videos that Jason's in are linked below. So we'll see you next week, tomorrow. Bye.
Good night.